Good evening and welcome to the January 6th, 2016 organizational meeting of the Town Board. I'll officially call the meeting to order and I'll ask that you please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'll ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Cole.
Here.
LaFountain.
Here.
Metzler.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Quinn.
Here. Because this is the organizational announcement, I will identify the first of the year appointments. And so this memo has gone out to the Penfield Town Board. It also has been copied to all of our department heads. So it's dated December 31st to the Town Board from myself. As provided for New York State Town Law, I will make the following appointments and assignments at this special meeting of January 6, 2016. One-year term, Deputy Supervisor Rob Quinn. Two-year terms, confidential admin Anna Napton, Town Attorney Richard Horwitz, Town Historian Kathy Knauer, and Tax Receiver Margaret Ravel. The following Town Board committees have been established at the organizational meeting with the chairperson as indicated. For Community Services, Linda Cole. Law and Finance, Andy Moore. Public Safety, Rob Quinn. Public Works, Paula Metzler. To continue, the following Town Board liaisons to other boards and organizations are effective 1/1/16 are as follows. The ambulance, that's the Penfield Volunteer Ambulance, as well as Nequals Northeast ALS Unit, Rob Quinn. Board of Assessment Review, myself. Community TV, Andy Moore. Conservation Board, Paula Metzler. Energy and Environmental Advisory Committee, myself. Fire Districts, Rob Quinn and myself. Friends of Dayton's Corner School, Linda Cole. Health and Wellness Committee, myself. The Heritage Association and the Historic Preservation Board, Paula Metzler. And then our homeowners associations. These are homeowners associations that are currently registered with the town. Allen's Creek, Corbett's Glen, East Penfield Homeowners Association, and Concord Square Homeowners Association. All members of the Town Board will represent those individual homeowners associations. The Justice Courts, represented by Paula Metzler, the Library Board, Linda Cole, as well as the Local History Room Advisory Board. The Monroe County Sheriff, the New York State Police, Rob Quinn and myself. The Penfield Business Chamber of Commerce, myself. Penfield Little League, Andy Moore. Penfield Youth Council, Rob Quinn. Planning Board, myself. School Districts, Linda Cole and myself. Senior Citizens, myself. Transportation Committee, Andy Moore. Veterans Organizations, Rob Quinn. And Zoning Board of Appeals, Paula Metzler. I will now recognize our Town Clerk for the appointments to the Town Clerk and the Receiver of Taxes Office, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. As provided for in New York State Town Law, I will make the following appointments and assignments at this special Town Board organizational meeting today, January 6, 2016. For a one-year term, Deputy Town Clerk, Lisa S. Grosser, Registered Municipal Clerk. Office Clerk 3, Christine M. Shaw. And for the Tax Receiver's Office, Margaret Ravel will be appointing for a one-year term Office Clerk 3, Michelle L. Cunningham.
Great, thank you very much. We'll continue on with our communications and announcements, and I'll first recognize Councilman Rob Quinn.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. The winter weather has been slow in coming this season. However, we all know it is just around the corner. As a reminder, by the 3 fire districts supporting the Penfield community, that all neighborhoods should adopt a fire hydrant this winter season. Once you have cleared your driveway and walkways, please consider clearing snow from the hydrant nearest your property. please take the extra few minutes to clear hydrants in your neighborhood. Thank you in advance for assisting our emergency service providers. That is the
Thank you.
announcement for this evening.
Councilwoman Metzler.
I have just one announcement this evening, post-holiday announcement. The town of Penfield is taking non-artificial Christmas trees after the holiday season to be recycled. You can drop your tree off at any time just to the right of the Department of Public Works facility gate on Jackson Road, near the sign labeled Christmas trees. For more public works services and information, you can also visit penfield.org. Thank you.
Thank you. One note, the Penfield Town offices will be closed on Monday, January 18th, in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day. However, the Penfield Library will be open their regular hours. Mr. Moore.
Thank you. The Penfield Trails Committee will be sponsoring a free guided hike at Ellison Park on Saturday, January 9th from 10 a.m. to noon. Please bring your cross-country skis or snowshoes if there's snow. The hike will follow a predominantly flat portion of Ellison Park on the north side of Blossom Road. Please look for the hike signs. While the hike is free, participants are encouraged to pre-register by contacting the Penfield Recreation Department at 340-8655. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Cole.
I have one announcement. My next community chat will be Tuesday, January 19th, from 5:30 to 7 in the new book area at the Penfield Library.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll move on next to public participation. There are two opportunities to do that at the beginning of, before our resolutions. Also at the end of the meeting, you can do that one of three ways. If you're in the auditorium, you can address the board by coming forward to the auditorium. You can log in at penfield.org, or you can call in at 340-8771. And I would recognize the clerk if anyone has signed up to speak to the board this evening.
Ed Linskog.
Happy New Year, Ed.
Happy New Year. Congratulations and Happy New Year. Ed Linskog, 40 Willow Pond Way. Just a little update on the project that since I've moved into Willow Pond Way I've taken on is to improve the woods behind Willow Pond Legacy, the 6.5 acres that's been allowed to overgrow. It needs a good mowing, it needs some pruning, and it needs invasive species to get rid of. One area that I've talked to town staff that I need some help on is standing water on the fire access road around the property. I understand it's a code violation if water stands more than 2 days. It's also standing on the trails in a couple of spots.
Ed, is this the paved fire access road around?
This is the paved road, yeah. I've chatted with the fire marshal. I haven't seen any action. I brought it to somebody's attention back in July.
Okay.
And certainly would like to see some corrections done. It makes it difficult for the people that have wheelchairs and walkers to negotiate, because that's the walk around the building that they like to do for exercise.
Okay, and that's the one that completely goes around the building?
It does. Well, it goes around half the building, and it ends up on Live Oak Court in one end.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and you did speak with either Jeff David or Tom Tett for the
I think
fire
I talked to
marshal's
both of
office?
them. Yeah,
Okay.
I have their business cards. Yeah.
All right.
And I was assured something was going to happen, but so far nothing has happened.
Okay.
The other is the town property on the end of all the cul-de-sacs for each of the properties that abut the park. The town owns the road plus adjacent turnaround areas. Some of the woods have been allowed to grow right up to the edge of the road, which is probably not a good thing because then there's no place to put the snow. Some of the neighbors have elected to build berms, so a conversation needs to happen between the town and the homeowners and the highway department to straighten out the situation, and in some cases just open it up a little bit more. I know you mow rural areas, and there's some trees and stuff that have grown in right up next to the highways.
Okay.
Those are the two big areas I need help with. The trail clearing, I think I've got that pretty well under control.
With the Trails Committee themselves?
Yeah.
Or some scouts?
It's both.
Both,
And
okay.
the 80K.
And this is...
I've been talking to the 80K tonight, so
Okay,
I think I got a good handle on that situation.
okay.
There is a plan that was approved by the town, a landscape plan, that it doesn't look like it was followed. And it calls for a 10-foot border on each side of the trail, which wasn't maintained, for a grass strip. What's happening is the rose bushes and other invasive species have been allowed to...
Close it in.
Yeah. It was trimmed back once, but not satisfactorily. So that's one of the things the Trails Committee is working on, is widening out the trails.
Yeah, got it.
And then trees, box elder and other trees like that you really don't want. You'd like to see a nice hardwood forest back there. The Trails Committee has agreed to plant trees if we can get somebody to donate them, or if the client wants to buy some trees to put in. It doesn't look like what was on the landscape plan was planted to any great degree, so. And we're working.
Ed, I know that you've been having conversations with Fran.
I have,
And
yeah.
I know Fran has been working with the Mark IV Corporation. And I think one of the last times that you were here, you spoke of the fact that they were at least being somewhat responsive. Mark IV.
That's correct. And I don't know where they're dumping the remains of the stuff that they clear up. It looks like they're leaving it on the property, which I don't think is appropriate. There is a large brush pile on the property. It becomes a fire hazard if it...
Right.
And it's still used as a neighborhood hangout, so that's one of the things we're trying to correct. And if we get it opened up some, I think that, so the neighbors can see what's going on in there a little better, I think that'll help that situation a lot, too. I've met with some of the neighbors, and they're happy to see that something's happening, and they continue to police the area and watch out for what's going on. There is a deer population in there now. They come and watch us work. That's not necessarily a good thing in that enclosed community, because
Right.
And they don't eat the invasive species,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
unfortunately, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if the town could help me with the roads and the access road, that would be great.
Well, I'll ask Tom Tett tomorrow and Jeff David where they are. So if you spoke with them in July, I would hope that they have at least followed up and done a couple of things, either with Mark IV directly or with Fran. But I'll ask them to take a look at that.
I know they did a safety inspection in November, and
Right.
there were some things that were corrected that were...
Right. Our annual, part of our annual in
That's
places, of gatherings. And so, yes, they were out. I know that they were out at least a couple of times in the last, 19 or 20 months. So,
There has been some issues on snow plowing in the past. I don't know if the town has any jurisdiction of private property being plowed, but all the fire exits from the building have not been cleared regularly. That's another issue that should be addressed.
okay.
We haven't had a lot of snow this year.
No,
but
true, true.
In the past. And another thing, some of the residents have talked to me, if there is an emergency, how do people determine the people that can't get out of bed without assistance? And they're looking for something to be placed on the outdoor windows to indicate which apartments need assistance. So that's another thing that could be addressed with the...
Yeah, typically, when you have facilities like that, between the fire marshal's office and the fire company that services that area, in this case, the Penfield Fire Company, they would sit down with the facilities manager and in this case also Fran as the director, and they would talk about what is their plan, because I think they have to submit a plan to the state as part of their overall operation, so that if they do from time to time, because I know it's independent living, but from time to time there are folks there that need some extra help.
There are two I know that have to be assisted out of bed because they're in wheelchairs all the time. They're in
Right.
motorized wheelchairs. And those are the people that have talked to me and said, there's nothing to indicate where our apartments are. If somebody came in the back of the building and was looking for them, how would they find them? Yeah.
Yeah, and again, typically, the fire company and the fire marshal will have to take a look, but typically, what would happen, or what should happen is that a representative of authority would come to the command post, or come to the designated command post, and then staff members would remain, if in fact they could, remain with those individuals, and that staff person out at the command post would indicate that, I have a person, in, the eastern wing, room, 120 or something like that. And that's how that should happen, but I think we need to just, maybe circle back with the fire department to see if in fact,
That would be appropriate.
Yeah, if and then that can change too.
Right.
Right? That person, I mean, in some cases it may not, but in some cases, if somebody has fallen or is doing some recouping and they're soon to be out of a, either bed or wheelchair, that those circumstances could change as well.
Thank you.
Okay? Thanks, Ed. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bob Reed?
Happy New Year, Bob.
Happy New Year to you, Tony, and to all.
Thank you.
Sorry I missed the swearing-in ceremony. I don't like to miss an opportunity to see some real serious swearing going on. I'm Bob Reed, 275 Parkview Drive, and I'm here, as I usually am, to talk about the Baker Commodities odor issue. We're now in the 11th year of the 4th episode over the last 30 years. The longest episode, I think, the longest it's gone on without being dealt with successfully. And I know that I'm not sure if it was true this year, but in past campaigns, many of you have made quality of life a major issue. And this is certainly a quality of life issue. Last summer, 2 outdoor lawn parties on a Saturday were not entirely destroyed, but seriously disrupted by odors from the plant, because apparently, according to the manager's own explanation, they took in material that was very badly decomposed and liquefying and tried to process it. And he says they have a way of trying to deal with that, but it didn't work. And that, I think, was at the end of the week, of Thursday and Friday, but the odors hit at their worst on Saturday. So we know the problem hasn't gone away. It is slightly better than 2014, when we had 190 complaints, and also another group of parties that was seriously disrupted. We did better this year. We only had 118 or 19 complaints, which makes it the second worst year in the last 19. So you could claim that it's better, but it's not good. And since Baker has already made the corrective adjustments that SCP Controls asked them to make in 2014, we could say that approach hasn't worked. And we're pretty sure that what SCP Controls did was too narrow an evaluation of what the plant does. They only looked at one aspect of the odor control system, not the entire system. And they also didn't look at how the plant operates, what it takes in, how long it holds it before it processes it. So it's terribly inadequate. And of course, that plays into a request that we've been making to the board and to the DEC for years and years, that truly outside, neutral, expert consultant be brought in to do a long-term analysis, not just to spend a couple of days at the plant, but a long-term analysis of how they function down there. When SCP Controls was there, the plant was not actually operating. They were looking at the equipment and the condition of the equipment, but they didn't see how the plant actually processed. So we think it was very, very inadequate. So I remember that being told, and I wasn't at the meeting in February, that someone on the board, it might have been Mr. Quinn, said to Mr. Murphy, who was here talking at the podium, that he felt that the town and the board had taken the lead in bringing the DEC to the table, I hope I have the wording right, in trying to solve this problem. And so I'll take that report as true unless you tell me that that's not what was said, but we certainly would like to see the board in the lead in trying to solve the problem. And frankly, we really don't feel that the board has taken the lead. But I'd like to hear from you folks, what have you done to since these odor complaints have been coming in quite steadily for the last 2 years, what actions have you taken recently to try to bring some kind of successful conclusion to this problem?
So what I'll say, Bob, is that I regularly speak with DEC, Tom Marriott or Paul D'Amato. I won't say that we speak weekly, but we do speak on a regular basis. One of the things that we've also done is DEC, and when I am available, if they have inspections, I accompany them on inspections. I know that Director D'Amato is currently working on making some upgrades to the current permit that I believe comments are due in on or around the 12th of January next week.
16th, I think.
16th? Okay. I had in my head the 12th, but okay, the 16th. And one of the things that is recent as earlier this week, so I would say Monday or Tuesday, I'd have to check my calendar. Monday or Tuesday, chatted with Paul and actually following up on a conversation prior to the holidays, encouraging Paul to have a public information meeting here as it relates to the permit. And the reason I had suggested that is a couple of board members had indicated that the permit is at best pretty dry reading. And a couple of board members thought it was important to maybe have a public information meeting to kind of highlight what the changes are, what does that mean, what do they hope to accomplish by those changes. The director had indicated that he's not opposed to doing that. He indicated that he is going to wait until the period of time and he is going to take a look at the information that has been submitted, and then from there they'll lay out a plan as far as a combination of either a legislative hearing, information meeting, or some combination thereof. Mm-hmm. So that's the most recent conversations that that I've had with the director.
Now, I remember at the public information meeting in 2014 in November, a couple of board members stood up and very forcefully criticized the DEC for what seemed to be a poor reevaluation of Baker's permit, something you had asked for, I believe, Tony. You'd asked the DEC to revisit the permit. And they came back very quickly and said Baker's in compliance with the permit. And I think some of you folks criticized that evaluation. Have you, therefore, taken a close look at the new draft permit, which is still a draft, and compared it to the old permit?
I can speak to that. I have, actually, I was one of the board members who brought up the idea of the public meeting, because as I looked at what was promulgated by the DEC as proposed to comment on, I thought that our residents really, I could not expect our residents to read it through and be able to be informed and comment without being able to ask the DEC what changes are being made. I reached out to Kim Merchant at DEC, and I asked simply for a redlined copy of all the changes that they were proposing, and she told me that did not exist. And I found that somewhat surprising, because in all other legislative bodies, regulatory bodies I deal with, when changes are being made, somebody has a red line version that residents and legislators could look at and say, here's what's being changed, here's what's being taken out, here's what's being added. So unfortunately, that does not exist. So I am in the process now of going through page by page and taking a look at what changes there are. On that note, if you are inclined to submit comments, I had the 12th too as a deadline. I better double check because I had the 12th as a deadline. I might be wrong on that as well. But if you, Bob, are submitting some comments, if you would not mind sending them to me, I would like to take a look at what people are submitting, so that as I'm wading through these proposed changes, I can take a look at what other people are commenting on, because I thought that was somewhat frustrating to not have that guidance from the DEC, who is there to supposedly also educate us.
Just to skip back to something Tony said before I address what you said. Tony said that the DEC was going to upgrade the permit. I think you used the word upgrade.
Upgrade or update?
Update, okay.
I think I said update, but I think similar.
I hope you didn't say upgrade, because my reading of it is it's actually a loosening of requirements on Baker, not a tightening of them. And one key component is that Baker has submitted a new air quality control manual. The last one, I think, was 1996, the year of the 500 or 600 or 700 complaints when they had a major blowout down there. That was a 13 or 14-page manual. It's very detailed, updating the responsibilities of the plant to produce quality air, or keep the air as clean as possible. The newly revised Baker Air Quality Control Manual is 3 pages. They've condensed 13 down to 3. And they've eliminated the responsibility of Baker to do a whole lot of things. And we're compiling a list, and we will be submitting that as part of our comments. It almost seems like a cruel joke if the DEC is going to accept this manual and not tighten up restrictions on Baker, but actually loosen them. We've been working on this as a neighborhood for 10 years with very little external support. Too often, we just have not had a responsive board or supervisor who would take action. I should say you've been responsive in terms of having meetings and discussions, but not taking action. And when in frustration, we formulated our own action list because we never got one from the town. You denied virtually every aspect of that, often waived the responsibility to the DEC, but chose to take no action on any of those items. So it does seem to be a bit of a cruel joke for a neighborhood that's been struggling to get this problem dealt with, not to see the board stand up and take ownership for it and really push it. And you criticize the DEC publicly at the public information meeting, but it doesn't sound to me like you're pushing them hard now to do something about the problem, because you acknowledge that they're the ones who are the primary regulator of Baker. And it may be primary, but I think you folks have some responsibility to help drive that because it is our town. So I would ask you to do that. We would like to see you in the driver's seat and pushing this, doing a detailed analysis, looking at that air quality control manual, and there is plenty of time to do that. We are going to be calling for a hearing rather than just submit our comments and let them take it, because we're no longer confident that the DEC has our best interests at heart. We know that this plant is very important to the DEC, that it does a very important function, recycling dead carcasses, but also fats, oils, and greases from all over western and central New York. And we know that stuff should not go to a landfill. But we don't think that we, as a neighborhood, should bear the odor problems of that process, especially since Baker has proved they can control the odors. Because, Tony, you've heard me say this 100 times. Mm-hmm. For 8 years, we had 0 odor complaints from the plant.
Or essentially 0. Mm-hmm.
We have none on record. And for the first 3 years of that 8-year period, we were ready to jump on anything because of how bad 1996 was.
Right.
So we know something changed in 2005. We know it's gotten worse, And we know that we, as citizens, have not gotten the help to solve the problem. And we don't really know why the DEC is not taking a stronger role. They should be. But maybe they're afraid Baker will just pick up and leave. And then where is Western and Central New York in terms of processing this material? I don't know, but we don't feel like we understand why they're not taking a stronger role. So I'll leave it at that. We'll have to verify the end of the comment period. We don't want to miss that deadline.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
but I would like to see you folks continue to compare the old with the new, come up with your own set of comments, and drive this process. And we will give you our comments to look at as well.
Great. Thank you, Bob. Thank you for your time. Happy New Year. Is there anyone else that has signed up to speak before the board? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to additions and deletions to the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Seeing none, we do not have any minutes before us to approve this evening. I will ask the board, town clerk and town attorney, has anyone received any petitions since our last meeting? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to resolutions by function. Similar to what we have done in past years, we'll be starting with law and finance. I'll ask our clerk to, in this case, read all 30 law and finance resolutions. I'll accept one motion and 1 second for all 30 of those resolutions.
Okay, Law and Finance, adoption of Town Board Rules of Procedure for 2016, adoption of wage and salary schedule and appointment of officials and employees for 2016, bonding of town officials and employees, authorization for the town comptroller to attend the annual meeting and the Board of Governors meeting. Number 5, banking arrangements to the town of Penfield for 2016. Number 6, appointment to Zoning Board of Appeals. Number 7, appointment of Chair Zoning Board of Appeals. Number 8, appointment to the Planning Board. Number 9, appointment of Chair to the Planning Board. Number 10, town membership in various organizations in 2016. Number 11, setting rate for reimbursement of mileage. Number 12, filing annual financial report. 13, authorization for contract with counsel to town attorney. 14, continuation of petty cash funds. 15, setting 2016 salary for chairs and members of the Planning, Zoning, Conservation, and Historic Preservation Boards. Number 16, monthly reports to Town Board. Number 17, setting holidays for non-union employees for 2016. Number 18, setting holidays for union employees for 2016. Number 19, appointment of second deputy receiver of taxes. Number 20, authorization to sign contracts with court stenographer. 21, authorization for supervisor to renew the agreement with the Northeast Quadrant Advanced Life Support, Nichols, Inc. Number 22, designation of official newspaper for 2016. Number 23, Town of Penfield Policy Book revisions. Number 24, appointments to Ethics Board. 25, naming of a labor relations consultant to the Town of Penfield. Number 26, employee handbook revisions. Number 27, authorization to sign a lease with Penfield Fire Company. Number 28, appointment of temporary members to the Board of Assessment Review. Number 29, appointment of Kevin Kane to the Board of Assessment Review. And number 30, appointment of Town Comptroller.
Thank you very much. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Supervisor, real quickly, before we go ahead and vote on all of these annual resolutions, I would like to make a minor amendment to Resolution 6.
So just before you do that, I would,
Oh, I'm
I'd ask
sorry.
for a motion, if you would, initially.
Moved.
Second.
Thank you. All right. Now,
So,
please continue.
A minor amendment to Resolution 16T001, and that pertains to the rules of procedure for the Penfield Town Board meetings and public hearings. In the past, this board has met typically at 7:30 for town board meetings, and we changed that about a year ago, I believe, to be consistent with our work session meetings at 7 o'clock. And I just want to make sure that the document identifies the time change to 7 p.m., not 7:30.
Okay, great. So you make that as a form of a motion for that?
That would be, yes, that would be a motion strict just for 16T001.
Great,
I'll second that.
thank you. I would ask at this point, any additional or further discussions on that proposed amendment? Okay, seeing none, I would just ask the clerk to call the roll for the amendment portion, and then we'll go back to the block of resolutions under Law and Finance.
Cole?
Aye.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes.
So that was just the amendment to 16T001. I'll now ask Mr. Moore if he has any comments regarding any of the specific resolutions that were introduced.
Just a few comments. I'm just going to read through a couple of these, not all of them, just to point out a couple of points of information. On 003, bonding for certain office holders and certain positions, department heads, $500,000 for bonding for a few, $400,000 blanket bond, and $100,000 for other town employees and officials. Just kind of going through some of these. Appointment to the zoning board on 006, Dan DeLaws and Andres Sillins. Both of them are current zoning board members and will continue to do good work for that particular board. Appointment of chair to the zoning board, Dan DeLaws. Dan has been the chair for quite a while now and continues to provide superior leadership in his abilities to overseeing that particular board. Appointment to planning board, Roseanne Denoncourt. Roseanne's been on the board for a few years now, very knowledgeable and a good member, so I'm happy to appoint her moving forward. Appointment of chair to the planning board, Alan Hetzke Jr. Alan's been a member of the planning board for quite a while, also chair of the board the last few years, and we ask him to continue on as chair of that board. Town membership to various organizations under 010, it's resolution 010. I've got a list, pretty long list of different organizations. Many of them involve elected officials on this board, but also organizations for our departments, State Clerks Association, State Fire Marshals and Inspectors Association, State Historical Association, New York State Wildlife Management Association, New York State Floodplain and Stormwater Managers Association, Monroe County Supervisors Association, Monroe County Town Finance Association, National Recreation and Parks Association, just to name a small handful of those. Reimbursement for mileage for town employees that need to travel. 2016 will be 54 cents per mile. This is consistent with current IRS, Internal Revenue Service guidelines. Filing annual financial reports. Town continues to adhere to all guidelines on doing that. And then just, some very kind of what I like to call bureaucratic, administrative type annual resolutions with petty cash and so forth. Monthly reports to the town board. Town of Penfield, under this board and under Supervisor LaFountain, requires all town department heads to file monthly reports to us, which we review as they come in on a monthly basis. Setting holidays for 2016, I'm sure that will be publicly posted here at the town hall and also on the town website. And that's really about it. A lot of them, appointment for a stenographer, as was discussed before. Designation of the official newspaper, Penfield Post, will continue to be the official newspaper for the town. And that's about it, Mr. Supervisor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Discussion, board, on any of the resolutions? Seeing none, I would ask the clerk for a roll call for all 30 of the resolutions, 16T001 through 16T0030, including the amendment that was made to 16T001, and we'll have one vote for all of those resolutions.
Cole?
Aye.
LaFountain?
Aye.
Metzler?
Aye.
Moore?
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Public Works, naming of landscape consultant to the town of Penfield. Number 32, naming of a planning consultant to the town of Penfield. Number 33, setting sewer entrance fees for 2016. Number 34, appointments to Energy and Environmental Advisory Committee. Number 35, appointments to the Watershed Management Committee. Number 36, appointments to the Conservation Board. Number 37, appointment of Chair, Conservation Board. Number 38, appointment to Historic Preservation Board. Number 39, appointment of Chair to Historic Preservation Board. Number 40, naming of an architectural consultant to the town of Penfield. Number 41, authorization to extend contract with the Greater Rochester Chapter of the American Red Cross to store one disaster equipment trailer at 1607 Jackson Road. And number 42, authorization to extend 2015 amendatory agreement, all seasons county and town agreement.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion on resolutions 031 through 041, please.
Mr. Supervisor, as Councilman Moore did, I just want to highlight some of the resolutions under Public Works, namely to recognize the residents who have stepped forward either to continue or for the first time be on a committee. They often go unnoticed, but do lots of work behind the scenes, both in their meetings and in extra work they do in terms of site walks and reviewing applications for business development and residential development in the town. So I just wanted to recognize some of the people that are named in these resolutions for various committees. The Energy and Environmental Advisory Committee, chaired by Supervisor LaFountain, Sinette Cavalieri, Susan Four, Robert Knauer Jr., Matthew Piston, and our Town of Penfield staff who help out with that committee, Phyllis Ely, Sabrina Renner, and Mark Valentine. The Watershed Management Committee, chaired by Mark Valentine, our Town of Penfield engineer, Ed Freeman, Mike Guyan, Mike Simon, Dennis Sanzata from our Highway Department, Al Brocolo, and Davis Kreiser. The Conservation Board, Jim Olmsted, Jeffrey Bartacci, Roseanne Cohen, Bert Gorton, Pat Schickler, Noel Schlegeter, Mark Wood, and Matthew Piston. They're being appointed to one-year terms. And Jim Olmsted will continue on as chair of the Conservation Board. Mira Medjabovsky will be, as well as Stephen Golding, will be appointed to the Historic Preservation Board. Mira is a longtime member and an architect, a very valuable member of that board, as is Stephen Golding is now the newest member, comes with a lot of experience with respect to historic preservation in the city. Also, Joan Belgiorno will be appointed chair again of the Historic Preservation Board. And I believe that is it. That is it as far as the residents I wanted to recognize within those resolutions. Also, all the resolutions tonight, as even though we're summarizing through, they're all available on the website for this meeting.
Great. Thank you very much. Further discussion by the board?
Just to make it clear that Public Works resolutions are numbered 16T 31 through 42.
Great. Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, then I would ask for one vote for 031 through 042.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Public Safety. Number 43, appointments to the Transportation Committee. Number 44, authorization of temporary assignment of judges. Number 45, court enforcement officer appointments. And number 46, appointment of town veterinarian.
So moved.
Second.
Just briefly, Mr. Supervisor, as Councilman Moore and Councilwoman Metzler have indicated, I also would like to just recognize the hard work for the individuals on the Transportation Committee, chaired by Councilman Andy Moore. Town residents include Lori Enos, Dan McCusker, and Mary Sweeney, as well as town employees in the Fire Marshal's Office and Highway Department and Engineering Department, and representatives from the Monroe County Sheriff's Department and Monroe County Department of Transportation. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any further discussions? Seeing none, I would ask for one vote for Resolutions 043 through 046, please.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes. Community Services. Number 47, authorization for supervisor to sign contract for Dayton's Corners School Coordinator. Number 48, appointments to the Library Board. Number 49, appointment of Local History Room Advisory Committee. And number 50, authorization for supervisor to sign Penfield Community Television contract.
So moved.
Second.
These are just 4 resolutions, and they're dealing with appointments of individuals, so I'd like to read them. The first one is authorization to sign the contract for Dayton's Corners School Coordinator, and for the past several years, this has been Barbara Quinn of 68 Harwood Circle, and she will continue to do so. And this appointment's January 1st, 2016 to December 31st, 2016, for a fee of $3,500. The resolution for appointment to Library Board, there were 2 vacancies. Amy Giafrida and Niraj Shah agreed to be, they applied and were appointed for the Penfield Library Board. And appointments to the Local History Room Advisory Committee. There's no changes here. Dedicated group of individuals that I work with. I'm liaison to the committee. Jan Brayman, Anna Bunchu, Don Nelson Nasca, Diane Dayton Riley, Margie Salmon, Jay Thompson, and Carolyn Wise. And the last resolution is authorization for the supervisor to sign Penfield Community Television contracts, and that's contracts for the videographer services. And that's for Jason Darnider, Ilya Van Chisten, I can never say his last name right, Van Chisten, Mary Gilman, and Catherine Quigley.
Great, thank you. Further discussion on those resolutions? And seeing none, I would ask for one vote for Resolutions 047 through 050.
Cole.
Aye.
LaFountain.
Aye.
Metzler.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Quinn.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you. Is there any old business to come before the town board this evening? Seeing none, is there any new business to come before the board this evening? Seeing none, second opportunity for public participation. If you're in the audience or if you log in at penfield.org or 340-8771, I would ask, is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the board on any matter? Okay, seeing none, I would like to wish all of our residents Happy New Year, Happy 2016. I'd also like to recognize Mr. Quinn and Mrs. Cole, who earlier this evening were appointed to a 4-year term.
Appointed?
Excuse me, elected. They were sworn in.
By the
They were,
residents of Penfield.
that's
There you
right,
go.
the president of Penfield. They were sworn in. I apologize. Thank you for that. And congratulations to them as well as Judge Lomenzo. And seeing no further business to come before the board this evening, I'll declare the January 6, 2016 Town Board meeting adjourned at 7:53 p.m. Thank you, Penfield TV, and thank you to everyone that participated. And thank you, ladies in the audience, Ed Linskog,